This is Interviews with Technical People with John Robertson
and James Havieu,
a podcast where we interview technical people in STEM fields
to discuss the past, present, and future from their perspective.
And today we're joined by Sascha Deri and Seth Lockman of bluShift Aerospace. Sascha, Seth, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Great to be here.
Same.
And we'll start just by saying congratulations on your recent launch of Stardust 1.0. So would you two mind just giving really brief introductions for yourself? And then we'd love to talk about what went down with your recent launch and tell us about your company a little bit. Well, let's start with introductions.
Sure. I'm Sascha Deri. I'm the CEO of bluShift and founder. We started bluShift back in 2014. And it's been a long journey to this point. This launched just on the 31st of January was apparently a world record in terms of the first truly commercial launch of a rocket using bio-derived fuels. And man, what a milestone. We're very excited.
Hi, I'm Seth Lockman, Communications Director at bluShift and fellow alumnus of the Maine School of Science and Mathematics. As I speak, it is just about maybe 10 minutes away, just off base here. So good to see you again, James.
You too, Seth.
And it has been a real journey to get here. So I've just been really privileged to be along for the ride and sharing the story of bluShift.
And people who listen to the show know that I love to talk about Maine, and I believe this was the first commercial space launch ever to occur in Maine.
Yeah,
so that was very exciting.
Yeah, so just world records don't matter, but within Maine, now
Maine records do matter.
We're hoping to be the second one too.
Yeah. Oh, another record that's kind of Maine-ish. This is, we believe, the first rocket in world history that was recovered by snowmobile.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Absolutely true. Perhaps by two truck liners.
Yes.
So actually, I got to put kudos out there to the Bouchard family who recovered the rocker, volunteered the day before. Actually, I would say that the grandfather volunteered his son and grandchildren to do this, and they buttoned up. I guess they went out and found two truck liners, buttoned them up together. It was a perfect fit for the Stardust as it separated into two different sections. It was a perfect fit for the two of them. They had it back there at mission control for us to hand back our payloads to our customers within maybe 30 minutes. It was a fast recovery. And we almost pegged a SpaceX launch on the pad too, but our landing on the pad too.
Yeah, how far down range did it land?
They landed what do you think, Seth? Maybe 300 meters, not even?
I was going to guess between 100 and 200 feet.
Okay. Yeah. And we'd done maybe thousands of simulations of where it might possibly land based upon different failure modes. So this was probably the best outcome we could hope for.
And I'll tell you, just looking at the launch, kind of as an outsider, it looked wonderful, especially for a first launch. You practically expect things to go wrong, but it from the outside, it looked excellent. And so certainly we'll post the link to the video in the feed so everyone at home can also watch. But so real quick, why don't you tell us a little bit about this rocket? So we've heard now it's the first in Maine, but so this is the vehicle that you've been developing for some time now. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so it's powered by the bio-derived fuel. It's a fuel that we're doing a hybrid rocket. All of our rockets will be hybrid, and that's where the fuel is solid and the oxidizer in this case is liquid. Our actual fuel substance is proprietary, but it's very close to carbon neutral. And the only reason why I say it's not truly carbon neutral is I'm sure that trucks that use petroleum had to carry this around, including our own. So you could say from that standpoint, it's not carbon neutral. But you effectively need very little to no pesticides in the making of it.
Is the fuel locally sourced at all?
People ask me that question all the time. Well, I should say all the time in the last week, a lot. I think we will from here on out. Fuel, even though the fuel technically costs less than traditional rocket fuel, RP1, it's actually more energy dense, completely non-toxic. It actually represents a really small portion of the cost to build a rocket. So the fact that if we pay a little more just to locally source it, I think that's a great idea. I think it's something we should go after.
Do you make the fuel yourself, or do you process it yourself, or do you just buy it, ready to launch?
We buy the raw substances, and then we make the fuel ourselves.
That's fair.
We spin it up into the grain.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me that you could buy rocket fuel from a grocery store now.
I'll give you the hint that you can't exactly get it in a grocery store, but it's close. It's close.
But right. So how long have you been developing this system, this bio-derived system? Because I'm assuming there were kind of two different development streams, right? The rocket itself, and then also kind of the propulsion system, which is based on the bio-derived fuels.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I actually started doing this before bluShift existed in 2013. And I was doing little small hybrid engine tests with a buddy of mine from the University of Southern Maine, Aaron Lewis. And we actually had done just a couple of tests during one Saturday, and we were at my brother's farm. And I sat down, this is in Maine, and sat down at his kitchen, and I looked on his windowsill, and I saw this certain substance, and I thought, man, it would be really cool if that substance could work, almost as well as the petroleum substance we were using. And I mean, it would be a great story to tell that we're using something that's more sustainable for our rocket fuel. Let's give it a try. 2 weeks later, we spun up the fuel grain, or we call it fuel cores, and tried out the engine. And it immediately was very clear that it was higher performing. We were onto something. So it took us from that point. It took us about 3 years to fully test the fuel and actually optimize the mixtures and get a really optimal blend. And that was thanks to some grants we got from the Maine Technology Institute here. So it took us 3 years to do that. And then we started building up our engines. And then ultimately we got a grant from NASA to fully develop our engine, what we call the Marvel engine, MAREVL. And that was a lot of work. That took a year, and man, was that stressful. Trying to hit all the milestones. I say it was a year because we actually started months. We got a pre-start to the grant that we got because we knew we had an aggressive timeline. So it took a long time to figure out how to make an engine that not only first it was figure out how to combust stably, and that was not easy. To make an engine that doesn't go chug 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 chug. And if you look in some of the hidden videos tucked away in our YouTube channels, you'll see some chugging engines.
Interesting. So it was kind of like you first demonstrated that the fuel was fundamentally good from an energetics perspective, and then it's a matter of packaging it into an engine that works.
Yep.
Yeah.
Reliably.
If you look off the course of history, there's been tons of research and development around liquid fuel engines and lots around solids. There's been some around hybrids, but not much. Not nearly as much. And there's a little bit of a magic into kind of developing an engine will actually stably combust a hybrid engine, a hybrid motor. And then the next part was to get the performance up. We had to get what's called the specific impulse up to a point that was acceptable for us to do the next step, which we did. We met our objectives for hitting 250 seconds specific impulse, and we believe we can go up at least 25, 50 seconds higher. And that's what enabled us to fundamentally get to the point where we said, okay, let's build a rocket and launch it with customers. Truth is, it was our investors that told us that. They said, or potential investors, they said, there's like over 100, 120, 140 companies out there developing rockets. Everybody's stuck in develop the rocket engine phase. Talk to us when you actually launch something. We don't care if you launch something a mile up, just prove that you can build a rocket, put your engine in it, add some customers, deliver their payloads back, then we'll talk. That's exactly what we did on the 31st of January. And guess what we're doing now? Talking to investors. It's time to get to the bigger stuff.
Prove that we can launch something.
Yes.
That's why I think one thing I thought of is, launching a rocket is pretty hard. You're pushing something straight up. And, I think with this new fuel, I feel like rocket engines have already been optimized elsewhere. I mean, is there a loss of power with a different rocket fuel, or have you really been able to get that up to where it needs to be so you can get an efficient launch, maybe to orbit?
Yeah, so we know that even with the engine the size that it is, we can certainly get something to orbit. Will our rocket be a little bit more of a chunky monkey? Yep.
Okay.
But the idea is, I think as engineers, we're engineers. I'm speaking like everybody who's engineers or in the tech industry. There's a real desire to like seek the optimal performance and the best of the best and get in this case, the highest ISP you possibly can. And there is utility behind that. It's important. But just like in the world of like making PCs, the CPUs, if you go for like the ultimate CPU, you pay a lot more. Same thing with rockets. Rockets, you try to get the ultimate performance. There's a cost to that. So we're not trying to become like the Formula F1 like racing engine of rockets. Trying to become like a Toyota Camry, where it's like it just performs well. It may be not the sleekest. It may not be the highest performing. It just does the trick and gets us there at a reasonable cost.
Would you say that it's less expensive to produce the bio-derived fuel than it would be from a traditional aerospace fuel? Like, are there cost differences there?
I think fundamentally because it's far less refining that's required to do this. So my guess is that's part of it. And the scale at which our bio-derived fuel is being refined is far lower than petroleum. So I imagine if you could do it at the same magnitude, it would definitely be at petroleum.
Yeah, and also I just want to highlight, like, how often do you come across a more eco-friendly way of doing things that's also an emerging technology that's also just out of the gate cheaper than your current supply lines and production methods, like industry standard?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that sounds pretty exciting all around.
Yeah. And it's definitely riding the trend of what's becoming important for us as a nation and as a people, is being environmentally friendly in whatever way we can.
More responsible. Yeah, the other half to our, I'd say secret sauce is the fact that, and this is not a secret, but it has its challenges. The fact that we chose to use a hybrid engine means that we have half the valving and tubing required to launch a rocket. So it's half the complexity to a large degree versus a traditional liquid fuel rocket like you might see on ULA or SpaceX or others. So that fundamentally means that there's like less labor involved and less complications to actually build it. Not that it's not hard, because it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's just less hard. And we believe ultimately, not only from like a development perspective is it cheaper, but from an ongoing manufacturing perspective, we think it's going to be cheaper. Then, you add on the fact that the fuel is so non-toxic and the oxidizer is non-toxic. It's non-cryogenic. Again, you can do this at a much lower cost, and I think it's forgotten in how much the development phase can make or break your business, right? Because you could spend so much money just sort of the logistics and the infrastructure to support the R&D that you don't make it to the point where you can commercialize your product. So going for a liquid rocket, so inherently that barrier to entry it's got to be raised higher because of all the infrastructure you need to have in place just to do the tests. Now, they do have the advantage that there's tons of literature out there to weigh in on how you should design your engine, but it's still, it's still a challenging art to get it just right, even with liquid rockets. From what I've heard. So,
one thing I wanted to ask about is rocketry is not really a business in Maine until now.
Well,
okay, but I was gonna say, why are you doing this in Maine, and what advantage does Maine have in this industry?
So that sounds like you were going to say something with the well.
Oh, just that we're Maine's second rocket company. We're the first ones to do commercial launch, but Vault Enterprises has been around for a while. Any ideas?
I'm not sure.
I don't know either. So I don't have an exact number. But there have been rocket companies in the state for well over a decade. And by the Maine Space Grant Consortium's estimate, there's over 50 aerospace companies in the state. Nice. If you factor in Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, Bath Iron Works, Pratt & Whitney, Just looking at the big companies, we already have a rich history in aerospace. And then when you start getting into this new space and nano launch, that's a little bit newer, but maybe it's not what we're known for, but especially since the Cold War, we actually have a really rich history in aerospace.
Yeah, and I'll add to the fact that, we get asked that question, why Maine? I think the first question I'd ask right back is, why not Maine?
I'm in favor of that.
Yeah. I mean, look at the other states that have done it. Why Alabama? Why Texas? Why Florida? And you can come up with reasons, right? Florida, I think the weather's nicer. Times of the year. But, Maine actually geographically has an advantage that, for instance, Wallops in Virginia, Cape Canaveral, Texas, all don't have easily. And that is the ability to launch into what's called polar orbit, where you would launch either due south or due north, unencumbered by people or property that you would fly over. You just don't fly rockets over really expensive houses on the coastline. So Maine we can shoot right off the coast and put things into polar orbit, and we're just going over ocean, and we're either in the ocean or we're in space by the time we've delivered our payload. So that's our ultimate plan, is to be able to start launching these nano satellites into polar orbit. And I think that's an incredible advantage, because by a study that was recently done, about 50% of the nanosatellites that want to go to space, they actually want to do these polar orbits, right? And the only places you can be launched from in the U.S. that allow you to do that are Vandenberg, which is a military base in California, very expensive. There's a lot of restrictions for both the rocket company and for the payloads to launch from there. And then up in Alaska, there's another location where you can launch from. Again, very logistically expensive. I'm sure it's gorgeous. But if the payload customer wants to replace a part, UPS does not deliver there next day. Your hardware store isn't down the road or in the town next door. So, a lot of people think Maine is remote, but there is more remote, and we're on Route 1 and we're on I-95. Technically, you can drive past Cape Canaveral and hopefully the future Maine spaceport on the same highway someday.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it'd be really nice.
So you launched from Maine. Can you take us through a little bit how the launch went day of? And I think there was an initial launch attempt a week or two prior to that, but it looked like there was a weather delay. So how did everything go?
Yeah, the weather delay, that was not our favorite day. That day, I think our biggest takeaway, and we didn't figure it out really until days later, was you should probably talk to a professional when it comes to weather, like a meteorologist. So we talked to
Rocket Russ.
What is Russ Farley? Yes, who is I guess he's a personality on a couple of radio stations, but meteorologist, professional, knows this stuff. He was very helpful, and he was the one who ultimately got us for the second try. Gave us the confidence that we can go. We take the 5.5-hour drive up to the northern reaches of Maine and launch. And man, it did not look good when we got out there. When we initially went out to the runway and got set up for the day, first of all, it was minus 14. That's a whole nother story. Minus 14 Fahrenheit.
That sounds like you could do cryogenic launches with that.
The day before, we literally froze the server, and it was so hard to explain to people until I said, okay, so we're going to let the server thaw overnight. And they're like, oh, that kind of freeze. Okay.
Yeah, it stopped working. Our damn router and switch stopped working, fundamentally stopped working. We literally, I don't know if I should be admitting to this, but we literally put those heater packs that you put in your gloves, don't mix them to the server ahead of time. I put a heat shrink gun in there and let that run for hours while we had that. I was like, we are not shutting this down because of temperature. So
if you ever do launch on a warmer day, it's going to seem so much easier.
And to be clear, this was more of a budget thing. Like Limestone Loring has excellent facilities, we could have brought in heated vehicles. In fact, Brooke actually conducted the launch out of his car. Right, we basically moved mission control as much as possible into people's.
And the reason for that was because his laptop couldn't come down because it was way too freaking cold. His laptop would just all of our laptops were shutting down. Even though we could, if we had bear gloves when we were typing, our fingers were frigid. It was the laptops that quit on us too.
So next time we'll have a heated building or an RV or something, so that yeah.
I'm thinking GoFundMe for the RV and maybe an airstrip.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean that's one of the challenges. That's one of the challenges of launching from northern Maine in the middle of winter.
Yeah, that was not the intention. I'm sorry, Seth.
I would just add that as frustrating as the weather delay was, because you wake up and you're like, God, today might be the most important day of my life, and then at 3:30 that day you're like, nope, this is not. It's not over yet, so that's definitely frustrating. But that kind of a weather delay, we only had one, and that's that happens at other spaceports too. So it's just, it was rough, but it's the nature of.
Well, it's funny. I even mentioned that because James and I both went to school in Florida, and so James, how many launches have we seen that weren't delayed?
We went to school 45 minutes from Cape Canaveral.
Right.
And,
Embry-Riddle.
Florida Tech.
Florida Tech.
Oh, hang on. So do you know Commander
John,
Scott, Winston Scott? Is he still the Dean of Aviation there?
He's no longer the Dean of Aviation, but he is still there. His wife was my C++ professor.
Mine as well. Yes, they are so involved in the university.
And then we had another professor who was John's advisor who flew on the shuttle twice as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Which was really great.
That's cool.
But John and I have T-shirts from a launch we went to. It was STS 134, I think. 132?
Yeah. We did go to 134.
Yeah, we went to 134 and we spent all day in Titusville for the launch and all ready for it, and they canceled it. So, that's happened.
We had tons of times. We never even saw it. We were there all day. So
I bet you it was above 10 Fahrenheit.
It was 65 or 70 that day. It was April.
But with that being said, the fact so where you all are based out of, so to speak, right, where your offices are, Rebuild the Rockets, is different from your launch pad, right? So you had to go drive up to the launch location.
Yes.
That was a question I wanted to ask too. Is you launch from a decommissioned military base, but your office is on a different decommissioned military base 5 hours away.
Yeah. I went to high school for a year and a half in Brunswick, and so we're stationed at the HQ is at the Brunswick Naval Air Station, and I remember as a kid, this is where the P-3 Orions would fly out, the sub hunters, and hunt down the Soviet subs, and you couldn't get on the base unless you had a friend whose parents were on here and you get on there. I'd only been on it once as a kid. It gave me shivers for the first couple of weeks driving on here, and felt like, oh my God, we have an office on the old base. So, and it's been, it was quite a hit to the town when the Navy shut it down. But it
turned into quite a business park.
Yeah. Oh, it's now probably hosting more jobs than it ever has, and certainly high paying jobs. And the diversity of companies here is great. Very vibrant, incredibly vibrant. It's really become a shining light within the town. And besides the folks we work, we have an office over at Tech Place too, which is a incubator that was key to attracting us, because I started the company in Massachusetts, and nobody in Massachusetts really wanted to have anything to do with an aerospace company. If we were doing biotech or pharmaceuticals, that type of stuff, Massachusetts is the place to be. But we were literally told by folks, look, you're doing aerospace, go somewhere else. Go to Florida, go to Texas, go to California. And it was actually one of those people who told us, who ended just at the last minute, said, actually, if you're looking for funding for aerospace, you might consider Maine. They have some interesting programs there through the Maine Technology Institute that might be willing to fund some of your research. Sure enough, they did. That got us to move. Tech Place was like the perfect place for us. They're one of their core markets for incubating companies is the aerospace market. They have an incredible machine shop, a welding shop, a woodworking shop, and importantly, a composite shop, a layup facility with an oven that we actually got to specify so it would fit in our fuselage sections of our future rockets. So I had to take a guess years ago, maybe 3 years ago, to tell Christine Logan what we were looking for. But we got to use that same layup facility and oven for Stardust, which, incredibly fortunate. This is like capital expenses you would spend millions of dollars on that we didn't have to spend money on at all, besides like the sort of rental fees to use it. So it's really, really fortunate what we have here in Maine.
In fact, our lifetime operating costs are closer to $1 million.
That's called Yankee ingenuity, man.
I love that.
and also, you all have a fairly small team, right? Like, about what size is your team?
So there's 8 of us who work on this, and there are 4 of us that effectively do this full time, but of which really there are only 2 of us that get paid for that full time. So I'm fortunate that I'm a CEO of another company, a solar company, and my team has been incredibly patient with me while pursuing this love interest of mine. And they've also been incredibly Seth. They've been incredibly patient with Seth, because I might have employed him with my solar company as well to do similar activities. So, but he's been dedicated to this.
Well, you can't have space flight without solar, right? Hand in hand. It is
right. You can't have a bio-derived fuel without solar. I just want to point that out, too.
Absolutely.
I guess technically petroleum, but whatever. Nuclear power, right?
I think it's absolutely remarkable. Again, just watching the video of the accomplishment that you all had, given that team, like you said, approximately 2 full-time workers, and I think James and I were aware of how big of an accomplishment that is. It's really, really hard to do what you guys
and
did.
Hats off to Luke Sandin and Brooke Halverson, the team leaders. You have the 2 full-timers there that they built the. I mean, we helped, but those are the guys like running the sims, turning the wrenches.
Yeah, that is sort of the core technical talent. These are not only are they incredibly smart and talented, but above all, the persistence for failure, because that's where this is. When you're doing this at a budget level, and you make mistakes, things go wrong that you don't expect, and man, do we have a load of mistakes in the last couple of years. It takes perseverance to get there. I mean, before we had Luke, who's a University of Maine mechanical engineering graduate, we had Brooke, and he and I burnt down the test stand 3 times. I mean, they're made of concrete blocks, but there's a lot of gear that's on there. We kind of blew that thing up. What do you blow up? This is the wrong word. We'll just call it like what do you call it? Fast flaming. Yeah. We incinerated the test stand a couple times. Every time you do that, that's 3 or 4 months lost, and I became very close to crying one time when we did that. Especially when it's my fault.
Yeah, a huge part of building a rocket is psychological, because especially on a budget, everything is always on the line, and any mistake could be it. Even if it's, even if there's still safety margins maintained, that could be the end of the venture. And so to work under that kind of incredible pressure for 6.5 years.
And developing a rocket can't be easy, because, I mean, the point of a rocket is the flames are trying to escape where you want them. I mean, it's trying to blow up on you.
Yeah, it's a controlled explosion. Exactly.
Right.
Pointy end up, hot end down.
Yeah. We like to say all about the vroom, not about the boom boom.
There you go.
So Seth, you're going to probably be releasing this, right? We had a camera that we weren't sure was going to survive, that we put on the business end of the rocket, because either the camera's going to be overwhelmed by the flame, or it's going to get incinerated. Even though we kind of shielded it quite a bit, but it came out really cool. But I think we're going to be releasing it.
The next one is the waffle cam. So one of our clients flew some Stroop waffles with us, and just kind of wanted to see how they would behave in a pseudo microgravity. And so they kind of floated around beautifully, and people are just asking, what happened with the Stroop waffles? What happened with the Stroop waffles? So we're going to release that video this afternoon, and then probably this evening we'll do the down view from right next to the engine.
Are those like stroopwafels, like the food?
The
Yeah,
Dutch wafer cookie. Yeah,
it's a Dutch dessert. Yeah.
yeah.
I was watching the live stream the day you got scrubbed, and you were talking about that. And at first, my thought was kind of, that's a little weird, and then it went to
A little.
They're good. I enjoy them. I can appreciate this.
Yeah. Dave Whitting, he's the CEO of Rocket Insight in there in Massachusetts. Fantastic sense of humor. He's trying to inspire his employees who kind of extra buttoning down due to COVID, and trying to do something fun with them. And he reached out to us. He said, "Hey, we'd like to sponsor a rocket launch and pay for one of your payload areas." And we're like, "Okay, that sounds good."
Yeah.
He not only do they have stroopwafel, they had tourmaline. So it's like a tourmaline and a little. Actually, it's literally behind me.
That's the Maine State gem.
But I had to ship this out yesterday to him. The stroopwafel survived, as you can see. Can't see in here, but the tourmaline. He's going to mount this on top of some sort of I don't know, something to give to his employees, and just
little plaques.
Little plaques. Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, my absolute favorite part is, everybody, the entire industry is like, how can you dampen the vibrations of rocket launch? It's not good for the payloads. In fact, one of our other clients, Kellogg's Research Labs, is working on this whole new technology to do exactly that, and that's what they were testing with this flight. And meanwhile, Rocket Insights is just like leaning into it, and they're like, we're going to use the vibration to tumble rocks. It'll be
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kellogg Research Labs is the one that's a vertically integrated nitinol producer. So they make the actual nitinol, and then they'll manufacture it. And they wanted to demonstrate their product in use in a relevant environment, in this case, a rocket environment, because they have a whole bunch of ideas, all the way from actuating valves to like actually making the whole infrastructure out of nitinol. I call it like vibranium. I'm not a mechanical engineer, but it's I guess one of the properties is it absorbs vibration and converts it to heat. That sounds like Captain America's shield to me. That's vibranium. That's what they have.
Yeah. Real quick, before it's time for us to go, what's the future hold for bluShift Aerospace? What's next?
Yeah, so the plans are we're working on the engineering of it right now. We've first of all, I just should say we did download the data from Stardust 1.0 flight. It was all nominal. It was very similar to the way we'd all the engine tests we'd done. So we felt really good about that. So right now we're speccing out Stardust 2.0, and 2.0 will be our full size engine. And the way to think of it is that Stardust 2.0 will hold one engine, and that will become our fundamental like Lego building block for every commercial rocket to come after that. So it'll become the engine that we use. That Marvel engine will be what we put in parallel, stack in parallel on the Starless Rogue for suborbital flight, and then for Red Dwarf for orbital launches. So we are already looking, if anybody's interested, especially our academic payloads, we are looking for customers to fly with us.
Mm-hmm. And we've already got a couple.
Yeah, we have two already. And we are looking to fill up our payload bay, potentially up to 30 kilograms.
How many bays is that?
Well, technically it's about 20 U of CubeSat volume.
Okay.
Yeah, and 1 U is about 10 centimeters cubed, just to kind of give you a sense.
Okay.
So it's approximately that. And the payload bay will have up to a 24 inch diameter. So quite a broad. It'll be a much wider rocket than what you guys saw in Stardust 1.0. But we will go to space. So with any luck, we'll be the first ones to space using a bio-derived fuel. Knock on wood.
Are you guys involved in the possible development of a Maine spaceport?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an important part of our future. So yeah, we're looking. Well, I can say this much: the Maine Space Grant Consortium is heading up a team, which we're a part of, to develop a Maine spaceport to take advantage of the polar launch ability, but also to develop a strong new space industry here in Maine, supporting CubeSat companies, supporting software companies that support new space, whatever it may be. And I think that combined with the Maine Technology Institute, The Loring Air Force Base, the former Loring Air Force Base, here at Brunswick Landing, the former naval station, the launch facilities, which we expect to have both in Loring and off the coast of Maine. I think there's a lot of potential for new entrepreneurs, whether they're from Maine or not, or they just love Maine, they want to work and live here, which we all love. I think there's a real bright future here for Maine. And as I like to say, the future of aerospace will have the words "made in Maine" on it. And you saw that.
I saw that on your rocket.
Launch. Daggone it. It said "Made in Maine." Daggone it.
That's a proud brand right there.
There, yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
That's the main thing. Sorry, that might have been.
I will be so for the first rocket that you all send to space. Are we using the Kármán line as the boundary of space here?
Yeah,
fantastic.
That's 62 miles.
100
kilometers. Yep. Nice round number.
Yeah, that's one I can remember easily.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And we were hoping to that particular launch. We're still doing the analysis on it, but depending on how the engine actually shapes up, it'll be probably 15 seconds or so of zero G time. But our plan is with Starless Rogue, so it'll be the full commercial vehicle after Stardust 2.0. We will offer our customers up to 6 or 8 minutes of zero G time, which is double what any other company, Blue Origin or Up Aerospace, et cetera, those guys offer. So it's really valuable research opportunity for academic and civil research customers. And anybody else wants to do any future Stroopwafel missions?
Yes.
Can you keep, well, when do you have to change from, doing the Loring Air Force Base to someplace over water?
Stardust 2.0. Yeah, that we were bumping up against boundary conditions, physical boundaries actually, with Stardust 1.0. We actually had to shut down our engine early, kind of underpower it because we didn't want to go too high because the dispersion might land us into bad places. So
you're really worried about where it's going to land. That's the problem.
Oh yeah, there. Whether or not the rocket goes up, I mean, it's coming down.
Yeah.
You
just don't want to come down in somebody's house.
Yeah, or there's a federal refuge right next to the runway, and we had to do a lot of analysis to make sure we avoided landing there. They did not want us to land there.
Is that why you didn't launch in Brunswick? Was there too close to civilization?
We'll probably
Absolutely.
Never do a vertical launch in Brunswick, although you could launch off of an aircraft using their runway there.
So where is your next launch site, or is that still to be determined?
Well, I am deep in conversation with one particular institute right now. I can't reveal it at this time because it's not a done deal. They are very open to what we're doing. I think it'd be a beautiful experience for our customers because, especially in the suborbital industry, the customers like to come with their payload when it gets launched because they're maybe doing last minute tweaks. Can't think of a more beautiful area of Maine, although all of Maine's beautiful, than to be on the coastline for a launch. So we're thinking it's going to be a wonderful experience. I can tell you this much. It's going to be somewhere between Bar Harbor and Cutler, Maine.
Okay.
Yes. And not too close to Bar Harbor because too many houses. So let's go a little further coast. But yeah, you could probably fly into Bar Harbor on Cape Air with your payload and drive to our launch facilities within an hour.
Nice. I say there's a few good spots through there.
Yeah, stay tuned. What we're going to do, we're shooting for doing this within a year. So, but it's all hinges on getting enough funding. We're doing a convertible note round for $650,000. So it's not much really in the aerospace world, and we're going to need that much and more to get through to this next launch. So stay tuned.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, for any of the listeners, would you all just give you all an opportunity if they want to follow you or find videos or find news updates? Where can they go?
Well, we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, of course. So if you reach out on any of those platforms, you'll get a hold of me that way. And then we also have a contact form on our website, bluShiftAerospace.com, or you can just type in bluShift Aero and it'll redirect.
Remember, bluShift doesn't have an E with the blue.
Oh
yeah, that's gotten folks before.
All right, well there you have it. Any last comments then?
John, I think we ought to go. I say we have one more question that we love to ask people.
Oh my goodness, I almost forgot. Oh, my favorite question.
Oh boy.
Apologies, everyone. Oh my goodness.
We've done this in every episode we've done, so
Okay.
just hold
This is the most important one. The whole episode has been leading up to this. This is just,
Uh-oh.
you both have to answer. Seth and Sasha, what is your favorite pizza topping?
Oh God.
Curveball.
Garlic.
Really?
Like it just doesn't taste good unless there's garlic. I mean, I love lots of other, but if I had to choose one that's going to be on there, it's going to be my key ingredient. I got to have the garlic in there.
like minced garlic, just pieces of garlic.
No,
like,
minced garlic. I'll take either one, but minced garlic kind of spreads the love everywhere.
Interesting.
I mean, even if you put whole cloves on and bake it out, that's perfectly good too.
Yeah, nobody will be next to me for the next day or two, but I'll enjoy it for sure.
Seth, I see you deep in thought.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, you can never go wrong with just more cheese. So
Oh yeah.
more cheese.
More cheese.
Some people don't like when I say this, but my answer is a cheese pizza. So maybe that's no answer, but just normal pizza.
What about you, James?
I'm pepperoni. Just,
Yeah.
nice, simple, classic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, now I'm officially hungry.
Well, here on the East Coast, it's lunchtime in a few minutes. So
Yeah, this could be breakfast food. This would be like cold pizza for the morning.
All right. Well, with that, we've answered the most important questions. So I think we've done our job here. Just want to extend another round of thanks for you all for joining us.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much for having us on the show. And I think that we're just seeing the start of what bluShift can do and what Maine can do.
Here.
that's dope.
All right. We'll look forward to seeing what happens next.
It'll be a blast. I had to. Sorry. Daddy fun. Sorry, it happens. It's a disease.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and take care. Thanks for listening.